everybody. Hello. Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's get started. My name is Dally Dixon. Thank you so much for coming. So, why are we having a rally? What problems is RIPTA facing? Great questions. I am thrilled to talk about it. I will read a short excerpt from Providence Street Coalition Save RIPTA page for just sort of a basic rundown on these issues. Pre-COVID, RIPTA was funded by state gas tax, fare revenue, and some additional state funds. But Rhode Island's state and local contributions are significantly less per capita than other states. When the pandemic hit in 2020, fare revenue decreased, leaving transit agencies in jeopardy nationwide. The federal government gave emergency relief, funding RIPTA to fill the gap. This money will soon run out before full ridership recovery, resulting in critical budget shortfalls for transit systems nationwide. Next year in 2024, RIPTA will be left with a fiscal cliff of $33 million, quickly exceeding $40 million in following years. There is no federal solution, and action on the state level is required. RIPTA's operating expenses are projected to increase due to inflation, while gas tax revenue will decrease as more Rhode Islanders switch to electric vehicles. As a result, the budget gap will continue to increase, and RIPTA will need a sustainable long-term funding source. Left unaddressed, the fiscal cliff will result in catastrophic service cuts, reducing our ability to move around the state. Service cuts means fewer people will ride the bus. Less money will be collected in fares, then more service will be cut. RIPTA gives tens of thousands of people access to Rhode Island's crucial services, jobs, and opportunities. Transit is an economic engine for our state and a key part of the solution to climate change. Letting transit die would be extremely detrimental to our state's equity, economic, and environmental goals. So we are calling upon our elected leaders, two of which we are fortunate enough to have with us here today, and telling them that we need a fully funded RIPTA. We are calling upon Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, Senate President Dominic Ruggiero, House Speaker Joseph Sicarci, as well as our senators and representatives. All of us are here today because Rhode Island needs public transit. Overproduction of personal transportation via the automobile and oil industries has been detrimental to the entire world. These industries are the driving factors of climate change, but that's been common knowledge for years, so I won't preach on it. But they have sunk their teeth into the world and forced dependency on their products. Much of the world has been built around cars. Providence land itself is 24% parking. I don't know about you, but I've never once heard someone say, I wish there was more traffic, more cars on the road. Ridiculous, right? But how do we pull back from this being our reality? Public transit is a very old thing. Rhode Island had electric trolleys from 1887 all the way to the 50s, because after World War II, the gas shortage was over, and everyone was like, ooh, cars, convenient. But this is not a sustainable way of life. If we want to prevent the worst of climate catastrophe, things need to change. And these changes must be ones that serve the people. I've been around the world. I've seen what good public transit looks like. I've seen trams and buses that run so regularly, you don't need to obsessively check Google Maps over and over. I've seen cities where the bikes easily outnumber the cars. And that's why we're doing this, because better things are possible. I've been riding RIPTA for years. There are tons of people dependent on this agency. Our friends and neighbors, ourselves. We will not let Rhode Islanders fall by the wayside. We will not let RIPTA go down. We will not let climate change worsen. Better things are possible, and we will have them. Thank you. Great. Okay. Who's next? All right. Thank you.
It's a tough act to follow. And I think I'll make my remarks a lot shorter considering all you've had to say. I represent Rhode Island transit riders, and we have two major goals. One of them is to fund the fiscal cliff. The second is to fund the transit master plan. I think Dally's done a good job of explaining what would happen if we don't fund the fiscal cliff. And just to add a little bit to that, what would severe service cut mean? It would mean that RIPTA would be forced to end all Sunday service and holiday service, like today. How would some of us have gotten here? All summer beach bus service. Essential workers with Sunday jobs would have to take Lyft or a taxi. Many families who have enjoyed a summer outing at the beach would have to explain to their children why they could no longer go. It also means a series of other things that I'll skip, all of which are bad. And this is not a one-time problem, as Dally's pointed out. It's bad enough for next year, it gets worse the year after, and it continues to get worse the years thereafter that. This budget shortfall must be avoided at all costs. And that's not enough. RIPTA needs additional funding to implement the Transit Master Plan. Rhode Island needs to move forward beyond simply providing the minimal services needed to move residents without cars from place to place, those residents who have no other choice. If the state is going to reach its Act on Climate goals, we need to entice those people with cars to take the bus either all the time or at least for some of their trips. And this means implementing the Transit Master Plan, which can achieve 80% of the 2050 target for vehicle miles traveled reductions. Not only is it good for the environment, it will also make the lives of riders better, faster, and more user-friendly. It will encourage people to take the bus as the best mode of transportation available, not because it's their only mode of transportation available. Sign up for Rhode Island Transit Riders, and we will send you emails to advocate in the General Assembly in the spring to fight for the changes that we need. So it's ritransit-riders.org. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bob Kells. I am Vice Chairman of the RIPTA Board of Directors, would you believe? And I'm glad to be here today to see this group. My message to you today is to keep up the good fight. It's very important that you stay in touch with your legislators. It's very important that you make sure that they understand what the problem is. The fiscal cliff is about to take place the first in the year 2025, the first week it's over. So we have to make sure that we have the funds to keep that program going. And that begins right now, and the allocations begin right now. So I urge you all to keep up the good fight, stay in touch with your legislators, and make sure that they understand the way you feel and how important it is to this economy, to the transit riders, to the people of the state of Rhode Island, because transit is very important. You see the buses go up and down these streets all day long, and that's very important to the people who need them, people who need to go to the doctors, people who need to go to work, people who have disabilities. It's very important. We cannot lose any of that because of money shortages. So don't let anything stop you. Keep up the good fight and make sure you show up at the State House to express your opinions on all of these things that were just discussed by these two persons who preceded me here today. Take care and work hard, and I'll see you soon, I hope. Thank you.
This is a great entreaty to stay in touch with your legislators. My name is Megan Coleman. I'm the state senator for District 15, which is half of Pawtucket and a chunk of Providence. 900,000 Rhode Islanders rely on RIPTA. That is more than half of the state which relies on RIPTA. That is a huge portion of our community. This is a piece of infrastructure that is critical to the well-being of our entire community, whether or not you ride RIPTA. Having RIPTA makes everybody better. More ridership, more service, and importantly, more free fare arrangements are where we need to be looking. So a couple of years ago, myself, then Treasurer, now Congressman Magaziner, and my colleague from Pawtucket, Rep. Leonella Felix, along with the Climate Jobs Coalition, we piloted the Fare Free R Line. As everybody here knows, that has been a huge success, and we need more of it. What the state didn't do was give quite enough money to make up for the fare difference. But we got an idea through this pilot what transit could look like if we made it easy for people instead of incredibly difficult for people. So I just finished the National Week Without Driving, which is one of the things that America Walks and a handful of other groups, including Providence Streets, was pushing. I am a longtime bike, bus, and train commuter. I work in Boston, so I don't drive a ton as it is, but a couple of things really stood out to me from this week. So the first is that evenings are really tough. as a senator, I go to a lot of evening things, right? There's Schmooze Fest here, and there's community event there, and there's this, that, and the other thing. And you have to plan it out for hours. And if you miss your bus, or if your bus is early, then you're stuck paying for an Uber, and that's expensive, right? So frequency and money are tied together. That infrequent transit means that it's really difficult to be spontaneous, right? So I can't just be like, oh, maybe my friend is downtown at whatever coffee shop, let me run down there, because the bus might not be coming for 25 minutes, and by the time I get down there, she's already gone, right? So these are the kinds of things that really also matter to our small business community. And also bus fares do matter, right? The cost adds up for our communities in Rhode Island that rely entirely on transit. Bus fare is between 28 and 30% of their income. That's transportation. That's expensive, right? That's a lot of money, especially when you don't have a ton of it, right? So what we are seeing over and over here, elsewhere in Boston, where they're also piloting free fare lines, is that those free fare arrangements do a tremendous amount to boost ridership. So either it means that people who weren't previously riding the bus are riding the bus, or people who were riding the bus less frequently because it was expensive are riding it more. Either one is a good outcome, in my view, right? So the data is coming in, it's coming in consistently, that these sorts of projects do a huge amount to connect cities. It also doesn't cost the state very much money. In the grand scheme of what we spend, this piece of infrastructure is crucial, right? We put money as a state into highways and streets because we see them as a public good. They are indeed a public good, but you know what else is a public good? Public transit. The best transit systems worldwide do not expect to be turning a profit on their fares, right? If you look at Tokyo, right? You look at Madrid, the expectation is not that it's making money. The expectation is that states and communities support these pieces of infrastructure because they make life better for all of us who live within those communities. So RIPTA, as we know, is approaching a fiscal cliff. This is not something I would like to see us drive over, if you will pardon the pun, right? The R line runs right through my district, so does the number 1. There's actually a bunch of lines through Pawtucket, but the R line, which is both the free fare pilot and the most traveled route in the state, connects 3 of our poorest and most urban communities together, all the way from Central Falls through Pawtucket, through Providence, down to the Cranston line. That is a lifeline. This is not the time for patchwork solutions. This is not the time for patchwork solutions. This is not the time to kick the can down the road. We need a really serious, sustainable, long-term plan for funding a sustainable, long-term piece of infrastructure. Transit's key to meeting our climate goals. I see a lot of people under 40 here, right, who are going to be alive over the course of the next 45, 50 years, if we're lucky. And we would like to live on a world that's not burning. A key component of that is having a way to convey ourselves, our families, our communities around town that does not rely exclusively on cars. This is the time, this is the year to get this done. This budget cycle is where we need to be addressing this. I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues, one of whom just rolled in on her bicycle, in government to secure this permanent, stable source of funding for RIPTA, and in doing so, helping connect Rhode Island to each other. So come say hi. Again, my name's Megan Cullen. Thank you for having me. Rep Kislak is over here as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Terry Wright and I represent DARE, Direct Action for Rights and Equality. And I'm standing here and I'm listening, and I'm quite sure that our legislators know all of our concerns. I'm thinking about our school students. I'm thinking about folks with disabilities. I'm thinking about our unsheltered and homeless communities. And I'm thinking about the R line, which is no longer free. I'm thinking about the inconvenience that it's causing to an already crippling problem. Taking away the R line, free bus service is only crippling our communities. Without a livable wage, a lot of school kids, they have to pay, but we're not even at a livable wage. We don't even have tenant protections here. And I'm thinking about just programs that have taken away, and what happens when programs are taken away. I think this is a slap in the face to our line riders and the shelters that are on that R line, and the way that the R line did provide transportation to those in need. We've been to RIDOT and RIPTA meetings. Months ago I mentioned this. Please do not take the free R line away until we can get out of crisis mode and provide stability for unsheltered people. But that has not happened. So here we are, winter's coming, and there is no free bus service for even those who don't have any income coming in. I would like to see the R line free bus service restored. I would like to see just the state of Rhode Island taking care of people who need help the most. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I also want to thank you for being here. My name is Alexandria Gonzalez. I also want to acknowledge that today is Indigenous Peoples Day. I am a single mom and a resident of Providence. I am a member of the Kennedy Plaza Resilience Coalition. We are comprised of several residents and bus riders of Providence and Pawtucket. I also want to acknowledge, again, today is Indigenous Peoples Day. Within my many different roles of work as an executive director of a nonprofit that fights to prevent poverty and homelessness, someone who serves as a school community specialist and a college student, I have the daily interactions with individuals in need of public transportation. Personally, I used to rely on the same buses I'm here fighting for today. I know how important it is for the R line to remain free. Allowing the R line to remain free has had a positive impact on all the bus riders that it serves. It is the main transportation line from Providence to Pawtucket and Central Falls, and probably one of the most frequently used buses with one of the most frequent bus stops, and this is critical. There are many restaurants, small businesses, schools, and services that are on this main route, and it is allowed for those economically disadvantaged and others who are just trying to go to work to save money and to be able to focus on housing, education, employment, and much more. I'm here today because I'm calling on city councilors, senators, and state representatives that represent Providence, Pawtucket, and Central Falls to urge the state lawmakers to have this public service remain free to those who use the service the most. Free R line allows people to access their basic needs: food, healthcare, banking. It is essential that public service is provided at an equitable access to all city members. Again, I just want to remind everyone, today is Indigenous Peoples Day. We should never forget what today is. We should celebrate them and their claims and their injustices, and that we are here with them to support with our brother and sisterhood. Thank you.
How's it going? I'm Michael Tillinghast. I've been fighting climate change for a long time. Climate change is real. Every time somebody gets in a car, they pump a ton of stuff into the atmosphere. The factories are all pumping tons of stuff into the atmosphere. So every time you choose to take the bus, instead of getting in the car, you pump less stuff into the atmosphere. So the free R line allows people to choose to take the bus without the financial toll, because as long as the bus is free, that saves Rhode Islanders tons of money. So Rhode Island put $2.5 million of American Rescue Plan Act funds into the RIPTA free R line pilot program. Rhode Island has $4 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds, so that's 4,000 million. So we can put 2.5 more million into the free R line program without making a dent in the American Rescue Plan Act funds. We can fund the deficit without making a dent in the American Rescue Plan funds or the state budget. So saving Rhode Islanders that much money and pumping so much less stuff into the environment, into the atmosphere, is really important, and we should definitely continue the free R line program and make sure our transit system is funded. Thank you.
Yeah. I've been a transit rider all my life, being a New Yorker, and it's possible to be discouraged because in 50 years I've lived here, being an advocate, we still face the cliff and we lost the free ride. But I have 5 reasons why we shouldn't be discouraged. And I don't want people to get discouraged because there is good reasons to hope. One is that it's not just our wish list that transit be better. It's the officially approved state transit master plan, not from us. The state approved it, governor approved it, state planning approved it. So we have the vision that's already in there. Secondly, we have a housing crisis that's more and more recognized. And we can see that we don't want to pave over the countryside to meet the housing needs, transit development, where people can walk and bike and get around on transit is the way to solve the housing problem. And more people see that now. 50 years ago, no one saw that. Third, you've heard about the climate stuff. And it's not just our opinion, it's the official Act on Climate bill. They have to reduce emissions, and transportation is the leading cause. So they have to do something. And transit obviously is one of the keys. A fourth reason is that the federal government, at least for now, has sympathetic people in the US DOT. They're willing, if we want them, to help fund and approve projects if we come up with them. And we have a sympathetic head of the DOT in Washington. Let's take advantage of the funds and the people while they're still there, especially. And finally, another reason for hope is the people here. And I've been following the legislature all this time. Now we have a coterie of good legislators like Rep. Kislak said, Coleman, and they're not the only ones. Believe me, my perspective is this is our best chance because there's a real coterie of people in the legislature who care. And with our help, they can help solve the funding crisis. And it's not just legislators, it's all the different groups in housing and climate and social justice that are active, and they've caught on to this issue, and they're going to help us. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Randall Rose. I'm also from the Kennedy Plaza Resilience Coalition. I want to talk with you about one of the biggest threats to transit in Rhode Island, which is the plan to move the bus hub out of Kennedy Plaza to a location that's still unknown at a price that's still unknown, even though the bus riders have not been calling for this at all. I'm going to tell you, so they've been talking about how to put the new hub at Doran Street, but the latest news is they don't even know where they're going to put it. It might be Doran Street, it might be somewhere out in the I-195 land. The one thing we know for sure is they're not talking to bus riders, they're not talking to people who care about transit when they're making these plans. And I'm going to tell you how this came to happen. The story starts back in 2014 when Joe Paolino bought his first property on Kennedy Plaza. Now, he's a real estate investor, but he's got one advantage that other real estate investors don't have. He has the political connections. So he can take a property that other people can't make money out of, and with his political connections, he can change the area around it so he can make more money. And ever since he bought that property, he's been complaining that the bus hub in Kennedy Plaza is driving down the amount he can charge in rent. So he started buying these properties in 2014, and in a strange coincidence, immediately afterwards, a bond was put on the 2014 ballot for RIPTA to borrow $35 million to make bus hub infrastructure throughout the state. But the real plan was to use that money not throughout the state, but to move the hub out of Kennedy Plaza. So Paolino has the connections. In having that kind of, I don't know for sure that I don't know for a fact that he got that on the ballot, but it sure looks like it. And he planned to, after that money was spent at taxpayer expense to move the hub, he planned to make more money with his real estate his investments. So, since then they've tried moving the hub all sorts of different places, to the train station, to a National Grid site on Dyer Street, to Doran Street. Now they're saying it might be yet another location, but the cost has gone up and up. That $35 million bond is no longer enough. Last year they were saying it would cost $77 million to move to build a new hub. End of last year in December they were saying it would cost $200 to $250 million. But they still don't know, and the cost is only rising, and it's for something that bus riders are not asking for at a time when RIPTA is facing a financial crunch, and when there's no money been granted to actually expand the system with the Transit Master Plan, which riders do need and the state does need. So they're spending money on everything but what the state does need, just to help one influential developers and other commercial real estate owners who want to profit from moving buses out of Kennedy Plaza. It's not right. RIPTA is in no financial condition to take this risk. It's a waste of money, and the contract that they have been asking for bids on, they haven't signed a contract yet, but when they've been asking for bids, they tell bidders they are expecting to give them a very generous contract where all their costs will be covered, plus a guaranteed profit, and if the cost goes up, the amount RIPTA pays just goes up and up. There's no guaranteed maximum price, so price can be not just $250 million, but even more than that. And I think of the worst boondoggles this state has seen. In 38 studios, I mean, that was a terrible boondoggle, but at least there was a guaranteed maximum price built into it so that the state didn't have open-ended liability. When they were planning to do a Pawsock Stadium, that was a boondoggle. It had a guaranteed maximum price. But this deal to move the bus hub, no guaranteed maximum price. Instead, the bidder gets to name what rate of profit they get, and they're guaranteed that rate of profit for the construction work they do. It's a terrible deal. It was not designed to suit riders. It was not designed to serve taxpayers. Nothing about this process was designed to serve transit or taxpayers. Maybe if it was revised so they start putting riders in the loop and listening to riders, it could be made into something good, but the way they're going about doing it is just heading for disaster. So this is not only a big threat to RIPTA, but because RIPTA can't afford this kind of money, it's a big threat to the taxpayers, because taxpayers are going to end up on the hook. So I just want people to know about this, that it's well known this plan is controversial, but it's not well known how bad this plan is from a transit perspective and a financial perspective, and it's going to eat up any budget that RIPTA would have to get better service. And I think a lot of the reason why Kennedy Plaza has been neglected, why transit has been neglected and allowed to get worse, is because some people don't want it to get better. They want bus riders to be desperate and willing to accept moving out of Kennedy Plaza. A lot of riders believe that's what's happening. So want people to know about that. We can win. It's great we're having this rally. There will be more rallies like this. Thank you, Dally Dixon, for organizing this, and let's save RIPTA. Thank you.
Christian Roseland here. I'm with Providence Urbanist Network. We're a new group that's formed. Some of our members are out here today. We're fighting for more housing, more mixed use, more density, and more non-car transportation options. We support the call for more funding for RIPTA, and we'll look forward to fighting with you to get more funding for RIPTA. We've already testified for this last year, and we'll be back again next year. That's me speaking from pun. But my day job, I work in clean energy, and I work for a nonprofit, a think tank, Rocky Mountain Institute, that actually ran the numbers on how we could meet our Paris Climate Agreement targets and keep the world below 1.5°C, which requires cutting greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030. And here's what we found out. We found out that even if we move our electricity overwhelmingly to renewables, even if we make it so that all the new cars sold by 2030 are electric vehicles, we can't get there. We can't get there without reducing vehicle miles traveled. We can't do that without getting people out of their cars, and we can't do that without creating better ways for people to get around. So I am really encouraged to see so many people out here making the connection between transit and climate, because this is a critical connection. We literally will not avoid the worst effects of climate change if we do not create better systems for people to get around without personal automobiles. Thank you.
Those of us who can, we are going to march to Kennedy Plaza, and those of us who cannot, we will talk to someone who is going to drive, and we can help you, we can reconvene there. All right, I will see you there.